Okay, hello everybody. So let's start the lesson. Today we're talking about relative pronouns. Okay, so what is a relative pronoun? Basically, it's a pronoun that refers to a noun that has appeared previously in the text. Okay, it could be a noun or it can be a sentence that it is doing the function of a noun in that complete sentence, in the whole sentence. Okay. Therefore, the name relative, it means that it's related or relating to another element. In here we have an example, the car which was parked outside, okay? This which is referring back to car, okay? So, this word that we are like relating to is called the reference, okay? Is this noun, or it could be also a sentence, a subordinate sentence doing the function of a noun. And basically, the pronoun, the relative pronoun, is performing or is having the same function that this previous noun in the sentence. So it could be the subject of the sentence. It could be the direct object. We are not gonna touch this in too much depth in this lesson, but I think it's important because in the future you'll see that sometimes some relatives like who or that can be omitted. They can be like, we can just take it away from the sentence, and that depends on the function. Okay, basically it's when it's the subject is when you cannot just take it away. But here we have some examples. So the girl who you were talking to, okay, this will be the function of the pronoun here as a prepositional object. We call it complemento preposicional en español, and who I had met before, okay, in this case that will be the direct object, is the same who was at the primary school with Laura. In here the who is acting as a subject, okay, and the same with all the others. This is the computer which is broken. In here the which is acting as the subject, or the room where we study and where we do our group meetings too is this one, okay? So the where here is a circunstancial adjunct, like in Spanish, objeto circunstancial, okay? So el complemento circunstancial. Okay, so now let's go to the most important bit. Let's go to look at the relative pronouns. So we have where. I think we are all kind of familiar with them already. Where is to use to refer to space, to places, okay? This is the place where I live. When is very similar to where, but it relates to time. There was a time when mobile phones didn't exist. So remember, when and where, very important. One is used for space and the other one for time. Which and who are also very similar, but which is used for objects and things or concepts, and who is used for people, okay? This is the computer, well, there's an error missing there, which was broken. Also the lady who works in the cafeteria yesterday. So they are used more or less in the same way, but who refers to people and which to object. And whose, that may be the hardest one to use. This one will translate as cuyo in Spanish. Is one that indicates a relation of possession, okay, with the owner of the object or the thing. So, for example, this is the author whose book I'm reading now. So we use whose because the book belongs to the author, okay? As I say, sometimes I don't like to translate too much, but maybe in this case, if we try to remember that is translated as cuyo, okay? So these are the pronouns that we're gonna be working with this unit. And finally, something important. There's a difference with which and who and the other two, or the other three pronouns, and this is basically that which and who can be substituted by that in sentences, okay? Now in the second bit of the second part of the of this unit that we're gonna study some kind of sentences where there's an exception for this rule. But look that the boy who's wearing a red cap can be written as the boy that is wearing the red cap. and the book which my uncle has recommended me, okay, can be substituted by that book that my uncle, or the book that my uncle had recommended me was boring, okay? So remember, these two can be substituted by that. And finally, we are going to look at some type of sentences or clauses that are included in the grammar of this unit, and that relates somehow to these relative pronouns, okay? So they are defining and non-defining relative clauses. So what's the difference between the two? Basically, let's start with the defining relative clauses. These ones introduce information that cannot be removed. This information cannot be taken away, because if we do, then it's impossible to understand the sentence, or the sentence doesn't make sense. Here we have an example. My sandwich is the one which hasn't got tomato, okay? So if we take the which hasn't got tomato, we cannot understand the sentence, okay? Because basically the speaker here is using the which hasn't got tomato to identify the sandwich, all right? So this defining relative clause cannot be removed. We cannot take it away without losing the meaning of the sentence. We won't be able to understand the sentence. And in this case, we can use that, okay, to substitute the which. So we can say which or that hasn't got tomato, it doesn't matter. And we don't use commas. I'm mentioning this because this is going to contrast with the non-defining clauses that are going to act exactly in the opposite way. So a non-defining relative clause introduces information that is non-essential, is optional, is something that we are using to add extra information or to clarify, but we can take this relative sentence out of the sentence and we will still understand the whole sentence. It will still make sense. So he have the sandwich example again. His sandwich, which doesn't have tomato because he hates it, is the one in the brown bag. Okay, so here the important bit is that his sandwich is in the brown bag, and with that we will be able to understand the whole sentence. But the speaker has decided to add this extra information, which doesn't have tomato in it because he hates it. Okay, so in this case we cannot use that. Okay, we cannot say his sandwich that doesn't have tomato because he hates it. Okay, we have to use which, or if we were talking about a person, we have to use who. And in this case we have to write commas. Okay, these commas indicate that this relative clause is a non-defining relative clause, and the idea is that like these commas are indicating that this is extra information that can be taken away, it can be removed, and we still will be able to understand the sentence. Okay, so that's all the grammar for this unit. I hope it's clear enough, and we're gonna be working with it like next week. See you later.